want to talk about what I call the Wealth OS. This is essentially a system that I put together that's helped my wife and I save and invest. I think I checked this morning, $440,000, which is pretty crazy. So if your goal is to invest like your first 100K, your first 400K, this is the system that I would recommend. So let's get started. So we'll start at the top left here. There's basically 3 fundamental principles to make this whole thing work. The first one is going to be input. This is you actually doing something. This is not passive income. It doesn't just happen automatically, and it takes some work, right? So it's going to require input as the fundamental layer. The second piece is the whole thing is centered around growth and automation. Growth is the investing piece, pretty simple. Automation is we don't want to do any of this stuff manually. We don't want to transfer money manually. We want to do things like direct deposit, recurring investments, things of that nature. And then finally, the end goal, the top layer, the fun part is freedom. Basically, I have time autonomy on there. That's like the main one. If you have control over your time, that's a lot of fun. I'm also gonna sit down because that's getting tiring. Okay, so that's the 3 main pieces that we're looking at. The next piece is the actual model itself. I'm calling this the Wealth OS because I work in data, I work in tech, and I also like finance, so this was a fun mix of the 2. But here's the actual model we're looking at. First one is gonna start with paycheck. This is the input section, right? You have to have some kind of job, some type of income to make any of this work. I think that's pretty obvious. And the first place we're going to put our money is to investments. The reason that we put it into investments first is because a lot of us get stuck thinking that bills are the #1 importance when it comes to making sure that we send our money somewhere. And I would rather flip the script, do what people say as pay yourself first. So we're going to invest first. These are going to be in things like 401k if your employer offers that. A IRA, this is an individual retirement account. You can do a Roth IRA, which you may have heard of. A lot of people talk about it. I personally think it's awesome. A traditional IRA, I think both of them are great depending on your situation. This can be an HSA, a health savings account. This is like a secret Roth IRA. It's even better in some ways, but this is mainly a way to invest and save tax-free for healthcare expenses, because if you're in the US, healthcare is a nightmare. After that will be a taxable brokerage account. This is just a regular one. There's no tax advantages with it. You don't have to get tricky with that. So you can take money in and out of it without penalties, but you will pay taxes on it. So keep that in mind. And then a 529 or UTMA account. Once you've taken care of a lot of your investments in your retirement, things like that, then you'll want to take care of your kids. Either a 529 for specifically education or something like a UTMA account. This is a custodial account that you can open for your kids and invest for them before they turn 18, which I highly, highly recommend if you have kids out there. That sounded like if you have kids just somewhere roaming out there. If you're out there and you have kids, check that out. Next, we'll put money into a savings account because again, we want to pay ourselves even more than we're paying other people. So ideally, this is a high yield savings account. Right now, the national average of savings account, I think is 0.4%. High yield savings accounts are around 4%. I think they just lowered interest rates, so it's 3.75. Either way, you're getting 10 times your money in a high yield savings account. Why not make 10 times more money than 10 times less money? Okay, and we are going to do 3 to 12 months of expenses. Some people like 3 months, they feel safe with that. Me personally, you don't have to do this. I prefer 12 months of expenses. It took my wife and I 3-4 years to save up a full-blown 12-month emergency fund, but we feel really, really comfortable with that. It's in a high-yield savings account, so it's not losing money to interest. And if we were to ever lose our jobs, or if she were to quit her job, we have 12 months to figure something out, which I think is more than enough time, but I would not feel comfortable with 3 months. So that's up to you. The last place is gonna be bills and fun, and I have on here auto pay bills because again, one of the key principles is automation. You don't wanna be paying bills manually, and so you can do tons of things like you can have your mortgage payment automated. You can have your utilities. You can have your credit card if you use that for things. Basically, everything is able to do this. So highly, highly recommend that. And then whatever's left over, we're going to have some fun with because that's the whole point, right? Really, this is the end goal, is to have as much fun with our money as possible. But we got to take care of this stuff first. I'm going to move over to frameworks here of how to actually execute this, because you might be wondering, that's great. This sounds like a cool model, but how much am I supposed to put towards investments and savings and then bills and fun? A couple different main frameworks. One of them is a more popular one, 50-30-20. You may have heard of that. The one that I like, that I think is better, that I've used is 60-40, and I'll explain the 2 quickly. 50-30-20, you put 50% of your money towards needs, 30% towards fun, and 20% towards saving and investing. The reason I have a problem with this model, that literally everybody and their mom talks about, is that it is less aggressive, therefore it is more casual, kind of redundant, and you have less overall wealth with this particular one because you're only saving and investing 20%. That means some type of split is between those two. I don't like that. 30% fun seems very, very high to me, especially if you don't have investments and savings set up. Like, a lot of people still live paycheck to paycheck and don't have really that much money saved. And a lot of people are in debt. And so if if you make $4,000 a month and you're spending $1,200 on fun, you have some expensive damn hobbies. That's $300 a week that you're spending on eating out or clothes or hanging out with friends. If you're in debt or you don't have like that much money saved and invested for the future, I don't love that idea. So I prefer 60-40. 60% towards needs and fun, so a little bit higher than the 50% needs area, but 40% goes to saving and investing. So we're effectively doubling what the popular framework is. And I would honestly consider this very aggressive. This one feels broke to me. That's how we felt for the past 6 years. But every time I check our net worth, it keeps increasing more and more. Even just a few months ago, we were at, I think, 380. Now we're at 440, which is pretty wild to see. And it's because we are putting so much money towards saving and investing, because we cut back on things like fun and we cut back on our needs as much as possible. I understand that this is not doable for everybody, right? Most people can't do any, which is okay for now. But the goal is, for me at least, be as aggressive as possible with saving and investing as early as you can. That way you can dial it back later and maybe go to the 50-30-20 framework once you have a lot of this set up and it's starting to earn a lot of interest on its own. Now, some tips to follow before we get into the actual steps and what I call the OS, the operating system architecture. Some tips to mention here. Again, these are just guidelines. These are not mandatory. I think you can do whatever split that you want. That's whatever split that you want that's going to fit for your life. Here's another key point here. Saving stops after emergency fund is full, okay? Except for sinking funds. Once you save your emergency fund, let's say you want to save up 6 months of expenses and your expenses are $3,000 every month. Once you have $8,000 saved in that example, you don't really have to save anymore, right? If you keep saving, now you're starting to miss out on money that could be built investing and growing to build your wealth for the long term. Saving should stop after your emergency fund is full. Then it's like, maybe you split this 20%, 20%. Once your savings is full, go all in on investing. Do 40%. Just chuck it at the market or at real estate, whatever type of investing you want to do. You don't really need to save anymore. What do you buy in the stock market? Generally speaking, stock picking, very, very difficult. Professionals have a hard time doing it. So normal people like you and me who just work other jobs outside of the financial industry, it's going to be hard to pick stocks. Your best bet is probably going to be index funds of some sort. Some of the more popular ones that are low fee, Vanguard, they're always very reputable. VOO, very popular one. That's a S&P 500 one. VT, these have even more stocks than VOO, a little bit more diversified. VUG is their growth one if you want to get a little bit more aggressive. VEU is an ex-US fund, so it's all stocks in the world except US stocks. This one I think is important because the US isn't going to continue to crush like they have the past 15 years. I mean, they might, I don't know that for sure, but I think it's good to also get some international stocks in your portfolio. And this year's a really good reminder because I think ex-US funds are up like 22% while the S&P 500 is up 11. So it's like doubling what the US has done this year so far. So keep that in mind if you want some more diversification. And then I have, for you dividend lovers out there, this is considered by many the king of dividend funds. That one is low fees. It has a high dividend payout ratio, percentage, not ratio. So check that out if you'd like. Stick to low expense ratios. I put here less than or equal to 0.3%, not 3%. 3% would be thievery. That would be murder. Don't do anything 3%. Anything even close to 1% is really, really high. Ideally, you stick to as low as possible. Like VOO, for example, is 0.03%. So I like anything less than 0.3%, but just as a general principle, the lower it is, the less fees you're going to pay. And that's very, very important. And then last one, be as aggressive as possible when you're young. And then later, your investments can start to outpace your contributions. And that's when more of your money can go towards having fun. Okay, the last piece, how to actually execute all of this. I hope that's clear. I hope it's clear. Okay, how do you actually execute all of this? This is what I call the OS architecture, and there are 4 main steps in it. Number one is the core layer. This one is very fundamental. You could switch these two orders, but basically you want to get a 1-month emergency fund. This is assuming that you are starting from scratch, right? In our example, if your expenses are $3,000 every single month, you want to save up 3 months in your high yield savings account. Or you want to save up $3,000, not 3 months. Then you want to get your 401k match. Again, if you have this at your company, most likely the standard match that I've seen is you put in 6% of your paycheck and your company gives you 4% for free. So that's free money. In total, you're investing 10%, right? 6 plus 4. The reason you want to get that is because it's free money and you're investing, and really you can never get that time back if you miss out on this opportunity. So I would say save up a little bit of money to give you some cushion, right? It's more than Dave Ramsey's 1,000. I like the 1-month emergency fund. 401k match, and then you're gonna pay off your high interest debt. This is usually things like credit card debt, which is 29% almost everywhere. Horrible, terrible. Some people don't know how bad that is, but that's really, really bad. Don't have anything on your credit card at the end of every month. Make sure you pay off that. Car loans too. Car loans can get kind of crazy. Personal loans, God forbid, you went to a loan shark and got like a payday loan. Anything like that you want to pay off. If you have a mortgage, I wouldn't worry about that right now. Number 2 is resilience layer. So this is where we're going to build up our full emergency fund, right? We're investing a little bit, which is great. Now let's build our moat around our castle. So we're going to save up 3 to 12 months. Again, you pick what you think is going to be worth it for you, what you're comfortable with. And then any sinking funds, this is like if you know that your car is going to need maintenance every few months, like an oil change, for example, you can have like a car sinking fund and just put a little bit, like $50 a month in there or something. That way, when expenses come around, like maintenance or whatever, you can pay for that, right? So that's our resilient layer. So now we've kind of protected where we're at so far so that we don't go into debt when emergencies happen. Now we are on to, let's start to build on top of that and grow. That's layer 3 is the growth layer. This is where we're going to look at, again, a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. I would recommend, so look up the stats. I may have them on screen somewhere, but if you make more than, I believe it's 150,000 modified adjusted gross income, there's certain limits where you can't add to a Roth. And so you have to go traditional. Honestly, that's a good problem to have. It means you make too much money. But if you're under 150K for individuals, again, I'll look up the exact number. Probably Roth is going to be your best bet. HSA, if it's available, you are contributing money into this account tax-free. It grows tax-free, and then you can use it for medical expenses tax-free. And I believe if you are retired, if you're past retirement age, you can use this as if it's a regular Roth IRA. So it's like another version of a Roth IRA once you pass a certain age, which is kind of crazy because you effectively get to dodge taxes and have it grow through investments. Wild. Okay, technically I lied there. It's more like a traditional IRA, not a Roth IRA. So when you're 65 and you take money out, it will not be penalized anymore, but you will have to pay taxes on it. So forgive me, back to the video. And then last one is 401k contribution beyond your match. So before we were doing like the 6%, for example, this one, I would blast as much money in here as you possibly can. That's what's built my wife and I's wealth like crazy. We also have a ridiculous 401k match, but 401ks for us have been really, really good. We're building up our Roth IRAs now. This is where you start to add to that once you got the other two going. And then last is the freedom layer. This is number 4. This is when you've taken care of everything else, right? You have your moat to make sure that you're good. If life hits you, or rather when life hits you. We are investing in our retirement accounts and making sure that they are tax advantaged, like a Roth or maybe even a Roth 401k. And now we can invest in just a regular brokerage account. We're not worried about sneaking around the tax system. We are just straight up buying index funds, maybe buying something a little bit more risky or aggressive if you're feeling it, because you already have your fundamentals covered. You can make extra mortgage payments if you want to pay off your house faster. Typical way to do this is like a 13th payment every year. So if every month you pay $2,000 on your mortgage, that's $24,000 for the year. But if you pay $26,000 in a year, right? So an extra $2,000, that's a 13th payment. Is my math right? 12 times 2? Yeah. And then plus the extra 2K. So if you make 13 payments in a year, that can dramatically reduce the number of years that you're paying your mortgage and the total amount of interest. Next one, the business building or side hustle. This is what I have this big line here as saying, this is the exception to the order here, right? You don't have to wait until all of this is done before you start a business, because your business can very well be what gives you your paycheck. Your side hustle could be adding to your paycheck every month. So I wouldn't necessarily wait until the very end if you want to do these things. I just didn't see a better way to put it besides here. And like if you're starting a business, it is considered more risky because most businesses fail. So it made sense to put it down here, but do with it what you will. And then last one, any other high risk investments. These can be crypto if you want. This can be single stocks. It can be triple leveraged ETFs. I would recommend, if you're going to go with higher risk, very much depends on your risk tolerance, what you're comfortable with, but like don't put all your money in a single company or a single crypto coin. Do they call them crypto coins? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a crypto guy, but this is where you'll want to do your higher risk investments if you're feeling up to it, if you have the extra money, and if you go, hey, I'm okay losing this small amount of money with the opportunity or the chance for it to grow to a lot more later. That's generally the principle for high risk investments. But that is the Wealth OS. We followed this from the very beginning when we started at 0. Now we're at 440,000. Like, even if you follow parts of this and you get to like your first 100K, it would be a huge win. So try out this framework. And if you want to see what's in all of my accounts as of like a few months ago, check out that video next, and I'll see you there.